All right, and we are live tonight. Hey, everybody, I am back for Talks with Alex. We have been gone for a whole week because we had an election on Tuesday, and I did not want to take away from my time to watch the results come in by having conversations because I'm always glued to the TV. I'm watching everything that happens during these elections. Sometimes I talk on social media, but most of the time I'm pretty much glued to the TV trying to figure out what in the world is happening and what is going on. All right. So I have on a couple of cool guests, actually, some of them back by popular demand, and some of them, one of them is my first time on the show. So y'all be good and kind to him. As always, you can comment, share, and ask questions as we talk about these things as far as the elections is concerned. All right. So we just had an election. Of course, Joe Biden won, question mark. And so like now we have Donald Trump saying that he does not want to leave. Question mark. So like all of these like things are swirling around in the media of things that could happen legally where he can keep the seat. So I want to kind of talk about, some of the feelings from different perspectives. I'm bringing back a couple of my old friends and I'll introduce them. Oh, yeah, too. I wore my Children's Defense Fund shirt. So shout out to Freedom Schools. I did that. That's actually what kind of got me into politics in the beginning. That's a long story, but anyway. So yeah, we're going to have a really good conversation. So I invited some really cool people. Oh, so one of the people are actually going to come on at 8:30. So they'll come in 30 minutes in, but we're going to start the conversation with these two great people. And when she comes, we will definitely bring her in and introduce her. But some of y'all already know who she is because she always comes. And I like to have these conversations with her and my other friends. All right. So the first person that I definitely want to introduce is one of my great friends. I met him when I went to an international conference in Washington, D.C., when I was a fellow with the Victory Fund. It was a great experience for me. I got to meet people from around the world, and I got to meet legislators who were leaders in LGBTQ issues and who were doing amazing and great things. And I met this really great council member from Newark, Ohio. And the funny thing for me is that I didn't even know there was a Newark, Ohio. I'm actually from New Jersey, and I know about Newark, New Jersey, but I did not know about Newark, Ohio. He introduced me to a couple of his friends from Ohio that were all elected officials or aspiring elected officials at that time. And we had a great time and I stayed connected. He actually ran for mayor and I was so proud of him. Like I am such a fan of people. And this is a really long introduction, but I'm going to bring him on. But I just wanted to say that he's a great, great guy doing great work. And his name is Councilmember Jeremy Blake. All right. Councilmember Jeremy Blake has spent more than 20 years in service to others as a volunteer in the community, communications consultant, Ohio Senate staff member, Newark City School Board president, and community organizer. In 2000, Jeremy was appointed to the Newark City School Board to fill a vacancy and won a 4-year term the following year in the general election. He graduated in 2012 with a BA in economics from Denison University. And since 2014, Jeremy Blake has been a member of this Newark City Council from the 2nd Ward. He has been an outspoken opponent of poverty and an advocate for early childhood education, jobs, collective bargaining, mental health services, peer support, addiction services, LGBTQ civil rights, voting rights, and improving neighborhoods. All right. So that's Mr. Jeremy Blake. You'll hear from him in a couple of minutes. All right. So I kind of have to backpedal something that I said because I thought that one of the people who was backed by popular, I literally received text messages requesting Ms. Chyna Dickerson to come back on the show. Okay. I see people enjoy us when we have conversations. And so I received, actually, there was another text message that was sent to me requesting her to come that I didn't even send to the group. But people really loved her. So I had her come back and have a conversation with me again. As you all know, Chyna Dickerson is currently the National Political Director of Forward Majority. She has nearly 2 decades of experience in political campaigns, community development, and government. Her career includes service with the Peace Corps in El Salvador and as manager of state engagement in Emily's List. Most recently, Chyna was senior advisor to Diane Reeder for DC City Council and campaign manager for now Congresswoman Lauren Underwood. Everybody, this is the amazing, the beautiful queen, Chyna Dickerson, and I will bring her back on in a couple of minutes. All right. And last but definitely not least, one of my good friends, and again, backed by popular demand because he was also requested, Mr. Rashad Fraiser-Gaines, is a compassionate and a noteworthy social justice advocate, policy champion, scholar, and entrepreneur. As a leader, Fraiser-Gaines has prompted and executed many movements and campaigns across the United States, including Ferguson, Charlotte, Jackson, and Charleston. Fraiser-Gaines is an ordained elder in the Church of God in Christ. He is the Chief Strategy Officer for Amplify Action and Chief of People, Politics, and Culture for rising media giant Black with No Chaser. All right, so this is my panel, y'all. Again, please like, share, and comment, ask the panel questions, and we're going to go ahead and get into this conversation about this crazy election. Okay, so I just want to say first that I'm a little taken aback by the fact that it was so difficult for over almost half of America decided that decided that Donald Trump was doing an okay job and an okay enough job to bring him back. And so let's just kind of get into that for a second. And what do you think this says about our country? Okay. And I will let Rashad go first.
Well, I got to start. So I don't think the election was crazy. I think the election is very reflective of the society that we live in. The reality is most people that we know are liars. Everyone says they hate Donald Trump, but 48% of America voted for him, which means that somebody's lying. We live in a society where people literally like to throw rocks and hide their hands. The only sad part is we know who you are. Like we know that you're lying and we know who you are. The question is, what are the people who know who these people are going to do about it? What the numbers that voted for him didn't take me back. What made me take a step back and analyze things different was the amount of people. And this particular election, I've done a lot of work down south because I'm from the South, even though I live in DC now. And as I came home and I did different things with the election, the number of people that were and are currently living in fear as to what possible retaliation and backlash could be like because Trump did not win the election is baffling to me. There are so many Black families that went and purchased guns in preparation to defend themselves if the need be. I have never in my life, if the election is fair and nobody was not allowed to vote, like no one was stopped from trying to cast a ballot, like as long as there was no foul play, I can accept the results. We lost. We won. When Hillary lost, I didn't go out trying to bust heads. She lost. We move on. When George Bush won when I was in high school, I didn't start a race riot at South Aiken High School. We lost. We'll get them again next time. So I'm a little this thing that there are Black people in America living in fear because the racist in chief lost an election fair and square, and now they're afraid to celebrate or wear. And y'all know me. Y'all know this ain't what I do. I don't do this, but I'm doing it today because I went to Cracker Barrel and I sat in Cracker Barrel for 6 hours. Look at me. I'm the one. So I'm saying that to say to me, if I did call the election crazy, it would be the aftermath, because there are Black people in America who are living in fear, who purchase weapons to defend themselves because they feared retaliation by Trump supporters because of him losing. And to me, that's unacceptable.
How about you, Chyna? What do you feel about this?
So I don't think that the results were crazy. And thank you, Alex, for having me again. I don't think that the results were crazy because I've been Black in America for in a little less than 2 weeks, 37 years. I know that you all watching think that I'm 25, but it's actually 37. Now, listen, I actually think, and I've been trying to tell folks this, which is why we won at the top of the ballot, but saw such stagnation and to some extent loss down ballot, particularly with state legislative seats, is because Trump was the boogeyman, right? And when you make one person the boogeyman, then the people come out for, with their stakes and their torches and all of their things for the boogeyman, which is why Biden has, my understanding is, the biggest turnout of all elections ever. But then you saw such drop off down ballot. It's because the Democrats created a boogeyman. However, because the Democrats created a boogeyman, you also saw, I think, some people, not a lot. So let's be not get totally out of control here, which is why you saw some people who might typically vote Democrat vote for Trump, not because they voted for Trump, but because they voted for this country, like, y'all doing too much. You're doing too much with the race stuff. You're doing too much with the gender stuff. You're doing too much with so while for white liberals and us, it was we need to vote for Biden and Harris, not because we necessarily are excited about their policy, but because we got to get Trump the heck out of here and everything he stands for. Whereas Trump supporters, because I don't believe in Trump voters, Trump supporters and people who voted for Trump, I think those folks support a country where they see it shifting to a place that they don't like. We have seen, like on CNN and other places, and I'm gonna stop talking, I hate when I go long, on other media outlets where they would interview Trump voters and the people would say they think he's crazy. Like, they would say they think he does too much on Twitter. They don't like how he says things. Like, they say that. They are honest about that. But what they don't like is everything is Black Lives Matter. People are talking about defunding the police, because, to be clear, the number of Black people who support defunding the police is not as high as you think. So defunding the police, like all of these extremes that I support, but that's not what the majority of our country looks like. One more quick thing I'll say. Here's an example. There are currently people who believe that Stacey Abrams is progressive. Stacey Abrams is a Democrat in Georgia. Stacey Abrams actually didn't even support Fight for 15. I love Stacey Abrams. I think she's great. I'm just making the point that now for the progressives and the liberals who are like, oh my God, you see what Stacey Abrams did to Georgia? This just proves that the liberal agenda, that the AOC type agenda works. No, to be clear, Stacey Abrams knows exactly what she needs to do and say for people in Georgia. And the problem is Democrats think that a Democrat is has the same definition across the country. Stacey Abrams knows that that is not true. So should she ever run for like president of the United States or something, I'm sure she would shift a little bit. She's smart enough to understand that you need to run where you are.
How about you, Jeremy? What do you think about this? And I mean, and I know that you're coming from somebody who was actually elected in office. So what do you think it says about the country? And I think you're muted, man.
Oh,
there you go. I got you.
Do that technology for me, Alex. Well, first I want to say, thank you for inviting me to come and talk to your viewers and be a part of this panel. It's a pleasure to. I've not met Chyna or Rashad, so it's a pleasure to meet you tonight and to talk about this. And I just want to give everyone a perspective as to, as you said earlier, I'm coming from Newark, Ohio. Okay, so this is just east of Columbus. So if you have an idea of where Ohio is in our country, right in the middle of the state is Columbus, and I'm east of Columbus. So I am in rural Licking County, Ohio. So, and I'll just share with you, 63% of Licking County went for Trump. So here I am, a Black biracial man, gay man, who is a sitting city council member in Newark, Ohio, but I am most definitely in Trump country, okay? When I drive around, the city, and even going to work, people have more Trump flags and Confederate flags than they did Biden. So I am most definitely in the minority situation here in Newark, Ohio. So I appreciated the comments what Chyna had said related to when people were hearing about defund the police, when people were hearing about Medicare for all, when people were hearing about all the different protests happening across the country. That was a lot for people. People in my community really, I consider myself a progressive. I'm shared like minds and shared values with you all, but the people that I represent are not there. They're most definitely, back the blue, back Trump, that whole thing. So it was very, it's very cautious. Even the Democrats around this area are very cautious. And I won't say they're all conservative, but I'll just use that term cautious for change. And so jumping on the AOC bandwagon or the Green New Deal and other things, that's something that is too much at once. So they can't take that huge leap. But I can't say that I'm thankful for Philadelphia. I'm thankful that Biden won. I'm thankful that, particularly for me, I was thankful for Kamala Harris, just because in my life, I grew up with strong Black women. And so I was excited to see her in this new role in breaking that glass ceiling. And I think other women, even white women in this community, were excited to see a woman finally breaking that glass ceiling. But we can't ignore that there are people out there that are still Trump supporters, just because they did not want to go, not necessarily because of all this craziness that he does, but even for the policy situations where they just weren't ready to take that leap into that progressive stance. So I agree with the others. I wasn't necessarily surprised with the results. Now, I will agree with Rashad that someone was lying. The polls that were coming around this election cycle, once again, told us a bunch of lies. So with the polling that was happening, I think that there's something to be said as to how this country does presidential polling in the future cycles, because now we've had 2 cycles of polling that completely were not accurate. And so that is something to be considered. And so I look forward to see what the pundits do regarding polling in the future.
I just want to jump in here because I am a progressive, and as a matter of fact, I'm Rashad, the progressive. And I've been wearing this little thing all day like a Boy Scout, but this is actually a headscarf, and I love it. But anyway, so one of the things that has always bothered me about the way we use language in this country is, as Democrats, we are really good at deflecting to Republicans, right? I can't tell you how many times white Democrats have had conversations about me and they've called me radical. In the Democratic Party, to call a Black person a radical is the equivalent to calling a Black person a nigger. That is what that means. When a white Democrat calls a Black person a radical, they're calling them a nigger. And in Georgia, because we worked in Georgia this cycle, I listened to the ads of Republicans calling Jon Ossoff a radical. Now, Jon Ossoff has never served a day in his life in elected office. He literally has no record that validates that. But I wondered, what are Republicans saying to each other when they call a white Democrat a radical. Now, in nobody's mind will John Ossoff
that he's a nigger lover.
That he's a nigger lover. Thank you, Chyna. I'm glad you went on ahead and said it. Because in nobody's mind is John Ossoff a progressive. No one thinks that. But if I can get you to think that at home,
because this is where I was going to take the conversation, because I need to push the conversation around that. Whose fault is that? Do the Democrats have a problem with the way that they message things?
Oh,
I mean,
yes.
Conversation. Hear what I'm saying. I mean, that's the conversation that we're having now, right? So, for instance, Jeremy was talking about in Ohio, some of the things or some of the ideas that they were saying didn't poll that well with people who are more conservative in the party. One of the problems that the Democrats have had in the past is that they are so focused on going against Donald Trump as opposed to saying what they're going to do or how they can help. You know what I'm saying? So the conversation around the whole campaign was Donald Trump is horrible. Donald Trump is a bad president. And all those things are correct.
Facts.
But they're not saying that, oh, we're going to do this for you, or we're going to do that for you, or this is how it's going to be useful for you, especially in middle America who are being devastated by the trade war, or middle America that's being devastated by globalization, or middle America who don't have people to point at or something direct to point at. Because I even heard one person on the news say, this is not a conversation about race. This is an issue of us fighting the liberal left, because they feel like it is taking something away from them that they cannot have. And Democrats, being the better party for people who are suffering, have a communications problem with communicating to people in the middle of America exactly what they are going to do. And we also realize that Ocasio-Cortez also said that all of these things that the liberals have been saying poll well with the people in middle America, in rural America. The problem is that Democrats act as if it is something bad. And when we're talking about universal health care, having health care for families and really explaining what that is, when we're talking about the Green New Deal and how the world is going down in a handbasket in a fire, these things poll well. The problem is that Democrats haven't learned how to package it because they've always been so dismissive of it because they've been fighting against the left. So I just want to put that out there. Do you think that may be the problem? And I'll talk to Jeremy.
I would agree with you, Alex, because everything that we heard here in my town in Ohio was, oh, well, you want to be the socialist. You want to be the, they kept throwing that term around so much that it became like that's the demonizing that was occurring was, oh, there's a new idea out there of to either be the universal health care, whatever the idea may be, even the defund the police, if we talk about that for a moment. Really the idea of defunding the police is taking resources and spreading it out amongst the community in other areas. So here in Ohio, it was the Republicans in our legislature and our Republican governor that actually cut local government funds and actually defunded the police literally. So when you talk about defunding the police, the Republicans actually did that, but yet the terminology and the wording there was no messaging coming from the Democratic Party to combat that. So the idea may be a solid idea that can be relatable, but you have to have like a conversation with someone. It's not a real bullet point that can be put across to people. And so I would agree with you that the messaging most definitely is something that is defective. So
I remember when Hillary Clinton lost, I saw all these articles, and even up until now, these articles in like the New York Times and other places about how to have Thanksgiving dinner or Christmas dinner holiday, how to spend holidays with the family if you're progressive, a Democrat, or like how to talk to the different sides, right, within your family. And I found it interesting because I was like, Black and brown people don't do this. Like, you sit down to the table and you just disagree. And that's what you do. Like, or you say, so here's an example. My father, I'm born and raised in Charleston, South Carolina. My father might have he's come around now, but he might have what you would consider more traditional, ancient values. I have never in my life said to my father, nor would I ever say to any elder, You can't, that's not the way to think. This is what's actually happening. This is what da-da-da-da-da. I would never talk to them that way. Instead, I say, well, here's my perspective. And doesn't it make sense that you speak to them in a way that's respectful? And you know that with time and with introducing them to your gay friends and with introducing them, they come to DC to visit me. So they see like how all of the people are, you understand that that's what brings them to enlightenment. But you don't have these very aggressive, you're wrong, I'm right, that's racist, that's sexist, and it is. But you just don't talk to people that way. That's not how you have conversations with people. You don't say, even though I agree with, defund the police. That does not, to a person who's not in politics, what do you mean defund the police? Older Black people don't even understand that. So you mean no police ever? Like never again? And again, I'm not saying that's wrong. All of these policy positions for me, and even for them, is correct. But the way you talk about it can't be if you don't believe in defund the police as a Black person, it's because you have been manipulated and have bought into white supremacy. You can't say that to people. And that is the way oftentimes Democrats in New York and DC and Los Angeles and Houston and Chicago, that's how they talk to people. Stacey Abrams didn't have this problem in Georgia because that's not the way she organizes. And the way organizations in Georgia, grassroots organizations that are underfunded and shouldn't be, that's not the way they understand you have to talk to people who might appear, because it's only appearance, who might appear to not be on the same page with you. It's called relational organizing.
Thank you, Chyna. I am officially sick of people talking about Alejandra Ocasio-Cortez. It really bothers me. Like, this is the thing. Her first critique and her first attacks weren't from Republicans. They were from Democrats. Okay? And it amazes me that everyone and their mama wants to go after this 28 Latina young woman. Nobody wants to say anything to these Democratic white women and white men who've been in Congress for 30, 40 years. No one says anything to them. God forbid somebody who actually paid attention in science class in college, because I slept, okay, hard in chemistry and biology. But somebody who actually paid attention in these classes champions legislation that could actually help save our planet. So literally every time there's an issue and we want to say progressives, like we attack AOC. We do that from within the party. And then like if AOC decided to not caucus with the Democrats, she'd be well within her rights. If she decided to not caucus with the CHC, the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, because they did not have her back and don't have her back, she would be well within her rights. If I ran for the United States Congress representing the South Carolina 2nd Congressional District against Joe Wilson, and if I ran against him, I'd beat the hell out of him. If I ran against Joe Wilson and I joined Congress and the DCCC didn't endorse me and financially support me in my primary and in my election, and the CBC didn't endorse me and didn't support me in my election, and I took my very black behind, as much as I love black people, to Congress, and I didn't caucus with the Dems, and I didn't caucus with the CBC, I would be well within my rights. Because the reality is, you're not going to get on television, talk crap about me, defame my character, assassinate my character, and then expect me to vote with you and have your back on every procedural and policy measure that you present. The way we talk to people within our own party is a problem. As Democrats, we don't even get a chance to fight Republicans because we're too busy fighting each other. I have never in my life wanted Republicans to like me. I don't understand all of these powerful elected officials that we put all of this trust in. Like seriously, the conversation today, like Chuck Schumer is going to appoint Joe Manchin to be over the Energy Committee. He is going to be vice chair of the Democratic Policy Committee. Are you serious? When Joe Manchin went on Fox News and told the world that he's going to vote against everything that the Democrats want, and you're going to put this fool in leadership? So I'm sorry. So forgive me for loving Bernie. Forgive me for standing with the Keith Ellison's children in the congressional in the House of Representatives, because at least they're not backpedaling. So Alex, you said something. You said the Democrats are the best party for people who are suffering. Well, Black people have been suffering for a very long time in this country, and they've given unyielded loyalty to the Democratic Party. And my question to you is, what has the Democratic Party done for Black people who have been and are currently suffering? So miss me with this whole message to Middle America and the Rust Belt and Wheat Belt and all them belts and poor white people. Miss me with that crap, because the reason Joe Biden and Kamala Harris won is because of Black people in Philadelphia and Black people in Atlanta. And if people understood the amount of work that it took to get Black people in Atlanta to vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, all I would say is you'd be setting stuff on fire, because it took work to get those people to vote, because those people no longer trust the Democrats and they don't trust the system. And that has nothing to do with Donald Trump. That's the Democratic Party.
The solution is to run, and Jeremy did it, is to run where you are. When Howard Dean, for all of the other criticisms of him, when he had the 50-state strategy, that made the most sense. You have to campaign where you are. If Stacey Abrams, when she ran for governor, even though she lost, when she ran for governor, if she ran based on the National Democratic platform, she would have lost worse, because that's not what Georgia needed from her or wanted from her. And again, the Democratic platform, the way it's written in black and white on paper, to me makes a whole lot of sense. But the way we talk about things and the way we engage with people, I can't talk to my father about abortion rights or reproductive rights the same way I talk to you all about it. That doesn't mean he's not pro-choice. That just means it's not the same conversation. And so if you give me message points, these are liberal progressive message points that are like, talk to all of the Black people this way about choice, then we might win with the Black folks in Harlem, but we're not going to win with the Black folks in Charleston. And that's just what it is. But Democrats are so on this high and mighty academic, and that's why the polls were wrong. You can't ask all of the people the same questions in the same way. You're going to get different answers, even if they believe the same thing, if you can imagine that. And so Democrats really need to get a better understanding, and Republicans understand this, of running where you are, because I know this for a fact as a person who has Republican friends. You don't have the RNC going into Maryland and then going into Colorado and telling those people how to run their races. Republicans don't play that. Send me my money and let me do what I'm doing. Whereas the D-Trip, and everybody else knows this, the D-Trip and all of the other ones, once they get a hold of your race, they tell you exactly what to do. Forget your campaign manager, your finance, forget what the candidate wants to do. They run your race from DC. You're going to lose every time. You can't.
And they keep losing.
You can't run a race in Newark, Ohio.
Wait. So I think, yeah, there needs to be a strategy where they kind of have discussions about what's going on in those areas. We are in agreement that we need to have a discussion around messaging. We also need to agree that there needs to be a conversation surrounding race in the Democratic Party. So moving forward, because I want to push this conversation a little bit farther, we have now Joe Biden supposedly here. And the first thing that I thought to myself is, I wasn't too happy with Joe Biden, but I felt an extreme sense of relief when I saw that they announced him as the winner, because I was nervous at first. This red wave thing, I thought it was going to be a landslide, and it wasn't. And this was a struggle. But then I was just like, okay, so then who is Joe Biden going to make his cabinet member and not cabinet members? Because that's what's really important, right? Because like this is going to tell us if he's really changed or if he's really about that work, right? Or if this is going to be some sort of neoliberal Democratic version of a Democratic administration, right? Because we know Joe Biden in the past has been a straight down the line middle Democrat that makes deals with Republicans. He's always been that guy that goes and makes deals with the Republicans to push legislation along. So he has a lot of Republican friends. So I guess this is the best time for him to be the president, especially if Mitch McConnell still holds the Senate, right? So, and then two, if Mitch McConnell holds the Senate, who is going to get put into, who's going to get confirmed? I mean, you got to think about how polarized our politics are, right? And you have Mitch McConnell out here in these streets saying, oh, Donald Trump deserves to do whatever he wants to do because he's the president. And in the past, it's always gone through the courts. In 2000 with Bush and Gore, and then again, and for the second election of Barack Obama in 2016, we've had these issues that's run through the courts. So let this man let it run his term. So what are we looking at as far as cabinet members? Who would you be comfortable with having, I guess, ideally? And who would you think would do the best thing so far? Because I didn't even know about the John Mnuchin thing being over the energy caucus in the Democratic Party, and that's some BS. Like I don't even understand him as a Democrat, first off. But beyond all that, who what if Joe Biden chooses him to be the energy secretary?
Well,
who do you think should be in this cabinet?
So and first is Joe Manchin from West Virginia.
I said Mnuchin. I'm sorry, Manchin. I'm sorry, but go ahead. Let me let Jeremy go because Jeremy hasn't really been able to have a chance to jump in. I'm sorry, y'all, because I know how we are. Go ahead.
I'm enjoying this. I'm like always getting knowledge from my brothers and sisters, so this is wonderful. But I guess what I expect, considering everything as what you just said, knowing that Joe Biden is the middle guy, I'm expecting that. I don't want to say the word normalcy, but I will expect some traditional confirmations going through. I mean, typically when the president wants to appoint a cabinet member, the Senate generally would go along with those in the past, in history, So I would expect that Mitch McConnell, if he is the majority leader again, which, according to Georgia, we got to figure that out. So I would expect him to have a mixture in his cabinet. I mean, I do see that. I mean, I don't know specific personalities as to where they're going to put them. I am surprised that Stacey Abrams is not named as much as Pete Buttigieg is. I mean, Pete Buttigieg seems to be in all the articles that you're reading, but Stacey isn't even mentioned. And this is a time for accountability. So I agree that, it is Black people that have put these individuals into office. So it is the time for them to be represented in high offices and high administrative posts. So if that's going to happen, that needs to be a part of us holding them accountable.
Well, Jeremy, you're assuming that Stacey Abrams wants to be considered because I'm sure they've started having conversations with folks already about cabinet positions, right? To quickly answer Alex's question, I'm not sure about the cabinet as it relates to specifics, but I do agree with Jeremy that it's going to be a mixture. To some of the other points that you said, Alex, that you asked about, one, Joe Biden, very sister girl with a net roll, I feel like, said during that debate, when Trump kept saying, oh, Nancy Pelosi and AOC and the Greens, Joe Biden said, sir, I do not support Medicare for all. Sir, I do not support the Green New Deal. And the reason I won is because I don't. That's the reason I won the primary. So you can stop trying to lump me in with all he didn't say this part, but you can stop trying to lump me in with all of these Black and brown and girls and all of these people in the Democratic Party, liberal, progressive people. Because to be clear, I ran against Medicare for all, and I ran not against, but I'm not for those things. And everyone knows that. I said that during the primary. So he has distanced himself away and continues to do so even as recent as the debates, that he is not these like AOC type, he's not an AOC type Democrat, right? The final thing I will say is Biden don't have beef with the Republicans. He doesn't have beef with the Republicans in the House and the Senate. So I actually think he is much more likely to get what he wants to get through than we think. And this again goes back to not all Democrats are the same, folks. So the Republicans in the House and the Senate actually have a relationship with him that's not botched, where they're going to be able to have white boy conversations with a glass of cognac. And it's not going to be a Democrat-Republican conversation. It's going to be like, Joey, my boy, like, you know how it is. We've been here, you know? Go ahead, Jeremy. Yeah.
Well, I just want to affirm what you're saying, because we got to remember that he was in the Senate for 4 decades. Yeah. So it's like, you know, those friendships that he has had go many, many, many years back. So I agree completely with what you just said there.
I want to go on the record. Is the record recording? Am I on the record? Okay.
You do it. T.S. Madison. Is this recording?
I want to, is the light on? Okay. I see the light. Look, what Joe Biden said, to Chyna's point, what he said was, I am the Democratic Party.
Yes.
And I'm against that.
Yes.
And I said, oh, you are?
That's what he said.
I hope everybody was watching. I hope everybody was watching, because I don't need y'all confused when stuff don't go the way y'all want it to go. But where I disagree with Councilman Blake and Chief Strategist Dickerson is that everything that they named tonight is actually the problem. I think it's a problem that we can sit here and say, well, you know, Mitch McConnell has showed us who he really is. But I don't think that's going to be a problem for Joe, because they're boys and they're going to go play golf and do what white men who play golf do. I think that's actually a problem. And I think that's a problem for everyone who got out here and did the work to get this man elected. It's really problematic, because the reality is Joe Biden is not the Democrat.
They didn't work to get him elected. They worked to get Trump out, and that was the problem with the Democrats. They didn't work to Joe Biden. They worked to get Trump.
That's fair. And to me, that's a problem. And I said this so many times leading up to Election Day. Being against Donald Trump was not enough. Like, the answer, if your answer to everything with Donald Trump and Joe Biden was, let's get Trump out, that's a problem. Joe Biden is not the person that people think they voted for. Not being Trump is not an answer. That's just not enough. I'm sorry.
No, that's right.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying, so, I mean, you're going back to the whole messaging conversation. Let me ask you a question, Jeremy. Do you think that we would have won Ohio if the messaging was different? If we would have been voting for Joe Biden and not against Trump? Because, I mean, I know that the people who vote for Trump, they're loyalists. They love Donald Trump specifically. So, like, I mean, is that the issue? Should we be thinking about how we remessage so that maybe we can win Ohio? And how do you think that we could change or flip the tide in Ohio?
I mean, in Ohio, you very much had our major cities: Cleveland, Columbus, Cincinnati, Dayton, Toledo, and then Athens County, which has Ohio University. So those counties go blue. And so what the Ohio Democratic Party did was focused heavily in our urban areas, and they just forgot about the rest of the state. So they forgot about 81 counties in the rest of the state. Okay, they forgot about my county, Licking County. You know, there are Democrats out here in Licking County. Joe Biden got, 35% of the vote here in Licking County. When Barack Obama won Licking County, he did not win Licking County, but he needed to get 42% in order to up the numbers in these red counties. But then that's what helped him win the state of Ohio. When Barack Obama won in 2008, he got 42% in Licking County, and then the same again when he ran for re-election. And then when Sherrod Brown won in his Senate campaign just here a few years ago, he did the same thing. He got 42% in red Licking County. So he's never going to win Licking County, but those areas, you have to be able to uplift the numbers, the percentage, in order to win statewide. This year, this election cycle, they just completely, now granted, it was a pandemic election cycle. You know, people are trying to do virtual things, which you don't relate to people in virtual meetings and all that stuff. It was just very unusual doing a pandemic campaigning. But they've just focused solely on the blue counties, our urban centers. They just forgot about the rural areas. And that's a problem. For if a Democrat's going to win Ohio, you cannot just focus on the urban areas.
Jeremy, can I ask you one quick thing? How do you, as a candidate, push back against what feels like the national Democrat agenda? Mm-hmm. How do you, if you know that that's not going to work in your area, because I think that's like what the folks in Georgia did, right? They're like, we're going to run Georgia how we want to run Georgia, and we're going to win. And that's what they did. Right. How do you then, that the way Democrats talk about things aren't going to work in your area. So how do you not fall under the pressure, break under the pressure of that?
Well, I think you bring up an interesting point, because I'll just put out campaign staff is one example. Mm-hmm. Like when they started to ramp up the campaign work, they wanted to bring people from Maryland and from all these out-of-state campaign staff. We have people here in Ohio that have been campaigning for years. And so why not hire someone who's already working in the state in order to make that effective? So every election cycle, especially the presidential cycles, when they want to bring out-of-state people in, we always constantly have that same conversation, that point that you're bringing up right there.
I'm gonna push back on that point. I'm gonna just go ahead and say this, and this is not against you, good brother Blake. Sometimes
I'm ready for it.
Sometimes we don't hire the local people because they suck.
No. I
didn't say all the times, but let's be real here. Sometimes the local people aren't good. Period.
Rashad, there's not been one time in the Democratic Party. I just did an interview with The Hill today. And the question he asked me was, how can the Democratic Party do better? And do they need to train more people? And and I said, churches and temples and mosques, all of these religious organizations and community organizations have been organizing people since the beginning of time, since they existed. And the way that we keep feeling like, to Jeremy's point, that we have to ship people in or train new people to do the things that people have been doing since the beginning of time in these communities is ridiculous. The problem is we can't control them the way that we want to control them as a national party based on our standards. And that because they know, if you've ever heard a Black or brown organizer from within a community lead a phone bank or a canvas, it sounds totally different than when you bring the white boy in from Washington, D.C. It is a 100% totally different thing, because, again, it's relational organizing. So I agree with you. There are garbage people everywhere. But if you think that bringing in Tommy from Boston is going to do better than Tariq, who's been living down the street for 20 years as it relates to organizing that particular district, I don't understand how there's confusion about the fact that you should be paying Tariq.
Chyna, we're not in disagreement here. I think these are two different things. I'm not talking, because there are people who are local who always get hired.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Them the ones I'm talking about.
Oh,
and they suck.
Okay.
And they suck. They sucked in 2007 when I started, and they suck in 2020.
Yeah, I agree.
So we're not talking about the same thing. Like, I 100% agree with you. But the reality.
Well, I'll go into that, because I'll piggyback on that. The Democratic Party, I mean, in most of these places, have pretty much their lineups of who they like, right? And they pretty much stick with those people all the time. So anytime there's a legitimate race for somebody who is next in line, they bring in all of the local, quote unquote, superstars that they work with. So, and then two, if there's somebody that tries to come up, they eat their young and remove them because they're not falling in line and the quote unquote what the party wants, or they feel like this person's message is not the direction that the party wants to go in. So that's a completely different conversation when we're talking about political campaigns and staffers. But I mean, like in general, I mean, and so I don't understand how as a national party, if you're going to try to keep a cohesive message where there are certain values and norms that are created within that party, how you allow some of these things to happen. Because I feel like one of the issues that the Republican Party now is having is that they've allowed people to do their own thing for so long that now they can't control this monster that came up, Donald Trump. So what happens, and how do you control the message? How do you maintain and establish norms without eating your own young and destroying any new ideas that may bubble up? Because AOC, the conversation about AOC is in her 20s. She's in a party full of older people who are leading the party that are in their 70s. The leader of the party is 78 years old. Yeah. Biden is the oldest president. The only person that you could point to, and I will push back on the fact that they're only pushing at her because she's a Latino. If it was a white guy, they've been beating the crap out of Bernie Sanders for years and making him seem like he's some crazy man from La La Land. And his ideas are what's been helping the party grow in the way that it has been growing these past few years that he's been running. So, like, I mean, I don't know. Like, it's always been a fight against the left. The party has always been attacking the left. Even if you look at the movie, The Chicago 7, right? And you see how they were fighting in Chicago, and that was during what? That was during Johnson's time, right? Lyndon B. Johnson, was that the? Yeah. So this has been a long fight for years that the Democratic Party has been having of the whole socialism / moderate, middle of the road Democrat. So, you know, I don't know if it's necessarily AOC. I think it's the young people in this country becoming more savvy with social media and giving her a megaphone, because she's young and they can relate to her. Because Bernie Sanders has had that megaphone for a long time. And the cool thing I love about Bernie Sanders is that when AOC came in, he embraced her. He didn't try to destroy her and say, don't try to take. He took her around the country and paraded her in front of everybody and gave her a larger platform that she could have had. And she's only a first-term congressman. This woman has raised more money, almost more money than all the other Democrats in the party. So, like, I don't know if it's just her or it's the ideas around the liberals that Democrats seem to be scared of and that they refuse to take on and change the message. So I know I just gave you a whole lot of, but I don't know if how y'all want to respond to that. But
I would like people like Jeremy. Oh, let me say this real quickly about AOC. What we need to understand, y'all, though, is the way people, it's just like regular life. The way people portray themselves on social media and in public is not necessarily the way that they're negotiating behind doors. So I just want us to be careful about when we are thinking about these folks are such big champions. Most of us, maybe we do, but most of us don't actually then follow what is actually happening on Capitol Hill. We just see them advocating for all of the people on their social media. So AOC is not stupid. She does know how to play Monopoly, right? She knows how to play the game and negotiate. You have to in order to continue to win. What I wanted to say, though, is I would like folks like Jeremy and AOC, and if she would do it, and Stacey Abrams, and folks like that, Cori Bush, to figure out some sort of, I don't want to say pact, because I'm just so exhausted with all these new organizations being created, but some sort of organization that's like, we're not the traditional Democrat and we won, and let us show you how. Because I think that there are a lot of Black and brown folks and women who want to run for office, but they're like, I don't feel like the Democratic Party, I don't feel like I'm the type of Democrat that the Democratic Party is. But that's because we don't see enough of the Jeremy Blakes and the Cori Bushes, and we don't have enough of them on Front Street to see that we can run and win as the Black. We could be an unapologetically Black Democrat just the way we are and still win. Jeremy has shown that. Cori Bush has shown that. AOC showed that. You know, when Ayanna Pressley showed. You know, the Tire Squad. They showed us that. Lauren showed us that when she ran in that district is like 1% Black. You know what I'm saying? So it can be done. And I just wish it would be good to get a group of folks like Jeremy together to do these sort of trainings or talks Like, you could be the Black that you are and still win, because there are other Blacks like you, or brown, or whatever.
Right. Let me just say that I also think that there's a bench that needs to be developed.
Yes.
And so there most definitely, a lot of the focus has been on the presidential election and the federal government, but even creating that bench within our cities and with our state legislatures and things of that nature, we need to get more people that look like us to be in those positions of influence and those positions of power. So to go to your point, I think that just even getting people to run for city council or to run for county commissions and other elected positions, that's just something that we need to organically amongst us encourage others to do that. Many times we talk down to ourselves so much that they're not even wanting to run. And so we have to really talk ourselves up as to, you know what, you want to run? I'm not going to be jealous of you. I'm going to support you. I'm going to do that because that's what needs to be done. So I think that's a very valid thing, is we need to get that bench developed amongst our people.
Jeremy is Black, biracial, and gay, and won in rural Ohio. Who does that? Who does that?
Right. All right, guys. This conversation went in a direction that I didn't think it would go in, but it was good. And I think it was around communications. I could talk to you guys offline about some people that I thought would be good. Like, I think Cory Booker would be great as the Attorney General. I think that maybe somebody like Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren could be great for the Treasury, especially since they're in the last legs of their careers. They need to be in the administration. A lot of people, but I think because of who Biden is and what's going to happen in our Senate, I think that he's going to probably have he might even bring Case again to fill the secretary position. And then, during the primary, they all made deals with him to drop out of the race, for them to unite at the time that they did, and Jim Clyburn to announce to the quote unquote African Americans of the country to vote and fall behind Biden. So, there were all kinds of deals made to make that one big scene happen to combat Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
That's probably why Buttigieg is being promoted and stuff like that, and magnified the way he
learned how to pronounce these people's names.
Splitting up. What do you need?
I need you to learn how to pronounce these people's names.
It's Buttigieg, right?
Buttigieg.
Oh, child. Buttigieg made a deal with Joe Biden, and it's probably going to be in the administration in some capacity, in some huge capacity. And same thing with Klobuchar. We know that that's going to happen. So, I'm just waiting to see how this whole process is going to pan itself out. I will say this. So we're about to hit 9:00. The chat has been very aggressive and crazy. So I would suggest you guys go look at that afterwards. But yeah, I would say leave us with a final good word, and how people can follow your careers as usual. Y'all know the deal. So leave us with a good word and how people can follow you on social media to see what you guys are doing. And Chyna, it would be amazing if you could drop that article or that interview with The Hill, because I would love to see that, because I'm a fan. All right. So go ahead, and we'll let you go first, Chyna.
So thank you again, Alex, so much for having. It's always a very lively, and I appreciate our conversations, because again, we see that not all Black folks think the same, but that we can figure out how to come together as a community to get the core of what we need done, right? Which is freedom and liberation for our people. So it's always good to be in community with you all. I can be followed. My Twitter is the only Chyna D. So you can follow me there, and I get a little crazy sometimes. But my website is there in my profile as well. The one thing I will encourage, since we have concluded this cycle, is that we should not conclude the work, and that I am more interested now than ever getting more folks because traditionally I try to hop onto campaigns I know will win, that I can help to win. But I think I'm going to be a little more interested and aggressive about getting folks that we haven't heard of much, like Jeremy Blake and Cori Bush and all of these folks running and making sure that they have what they need, but also doing the organizing from the ground, because like Rashad said and Jeremy said, actually not disagreeing with each other when Rashad provided the clarification, we need to engage more of our young people who have been living in these communities and actually know these communities and get them involved in politics, because I think they could actually blow this entire thing up, right? If we get them involved. So Jeremy, thank you for continuing to hire folks who are of the community and not who are just rubber stamped by the establishment.
Well, I'll go ahead and
yeah,
I just want to say, thank you, Alex, for inviting me tonight, and it's a pleasure to meet both Rashad and Chyna. I see this. I'm going to go follow both of you and add on Facebook, and we'll become good friends. So looking forward to that, continuing this conversation. And I'm just glad that you're providing this platform for people to be able to express their opinions and to continue to talk. When we stop talking, that's when ideas and things just go nowhere. So when we continue to talk and continue to collaborate in partnership, that's where positive things can happen. And I just want to share with y'all, everything that's happening. I'm really excited because even here in Newark, Ohio, considering everything that happened this year, we've reactivated our local NAACP chapter. Even though that Newark is less, now get this, Newark is less than 5% people of color, okay? So now we're going to have our NAACP chapter back up and going, and people are organizing. They are, I see them doing this for years to come now. So it's not something that's just going to be a moment, but it really is going to be a movement. And I see that happening, not just here, but across the country. If people want to find me, I'm on Facebook and Twitter, Jeremy Blake OH, Jeremy Blake, Ohio. And so looking forward to interacting with people. And thanks again, Alex, for having me.
Can y'all see me?
And send Jeremy some money. I always tell my candidates to make a money ask. I understand why he didn't do it. So I'm telling you, when you find Jeremy, send that man some money, because he never stops running. He will always be running.
rnewark.com. Thank you. OURnewark.com.
There you go.
So I'm running for Congress. So just put that out there. All right. You can follow me. Don't follow me, follow the work. So visit www.amplifyaction.com and www.amplifyactionfund.com. We're going back to Georgia for this runoff elections. We're going back, and any donation that you can make to the work. Amplify Action is our C3. Amplify Action Fund is our C4. Please donate to the fund. $7, 33 cents, whatever you can afford. But yeah, amplifyaction.com. No, ampourvote.com. That's it. www.ampourvote.com and then www.amplifyactionfund.com. And we'd love to have your support. And if you got some time to volunteer, you can take a weekend off. We'd love to have you down in Georgia helping out. If you want to go to the city, we can send you to Augusta or Atlanta. If you want to do rural areas, trust me, it's plenty of farms and long driveways in Georgia. So we can help you be comfortable wherever you are. So we'd love to have your support.
And so I just want to say thank you all so much for coming and being a part of this. I really appreciate you. I love our conversations. We're going to have to do it again. Jeremy, you were a great addition to our trio. I thought you brought a different aspect to it all too. And they were actually on pretty good behavior tonight. I'm surprised. So you put city councilmen out there and they're like, oh, because we've had some like
I didn't know what I was getting into, but I appreciate you all.
All right. So thank you all. Until next time, I love y'all. Okay. I'm gonna do my closing words and then I'm gonna be out. All right. So everybody, we have a president-elect, and we are on our way to a new administration, hopefully. And my space is now, I'm just really trying to hold on to the fact that, and I'm trying to hold on to the fact that this is going to happen, and I'm trying to look towards the future. Donald Trump is a non-factor in my mind. It's almost like when you go to the zoo, they say don't feed the animals, because if you feed the animals, they won't go away. So it's kind of like that with Donald Trump. If you feed him, if you give him if the media constantly promotes and says what he's going to do, if they run and hang on every word about everything that he does, then he's not going to go away. And I hope after January 20th, when Joe Biden is inaugurated in, that they do not hold on to every word that Donald Trump says, because that's what put him in the place that he's in now. He's a showman and a con artist. So just don't feed the animals, right? And it will go away. I am happy and proud that we have we have a Black woman in office, the first vice president. I honestly did not know how important it was to a lot of women. But I received so many phone calls on the day of. My aunt called me crying. My best friend, she called me crying. Everything is this is so great for women and all that kind of stuff. And it was a very sobering moment for me, because sometimes I get so caught up on the politics that I can't see the light that's happening in front of me. And so for that, I do apologize. It is absolutely amazing to have the first woman of color as the vice president of this country. And I cannot wait till she's inaugurated. I'm already looking into trying to go to the inauguration, because this is history happening. And I'm going to get a picture of her and put it in my house and hang it up for everybody to see, alongside my Barack Obama paraphernalia and Michelle Beverly, because I'm a fan of them. All right. We have a Black woman that has won on a ticket in our country. That says a lot for America. We are behind other countries when it comes to women being in the top leadership in this country. So I celebrate her. And not only that, she went to an HBCU. Shout outs to all the HBCUs in this country. We have produced leaders at the highest levels of government, from the Supreme Court to Congress to the Senate. Wait a minute, to the U.S. Senate? Yeah, to the Senate. Yes, to the U.S. Senate and to the White House. So kudos to the HBCUs of this country. Kudos to all them freedom riders and those African Americans that have fought the good fight all this time, that has been out here in these streets trying to make sure that our people are aware of the vote, taking your tireless time and hours to knock on doors and to register people to vote. This is your win, right? This is your tireless hours. And I thank you all so much for helping put this country back on the right path. And so now we stay focused, and we hold now these leaders that we have elected accountable. Speak out. Do not let people silence you. If you see something that is not happening in your community and you voted for these people, you say something about it. Don't let people tell you what you are and are not supposed to think. You speak to these political leaders because they serve you. You don't serve them. All right? And you let them know and hold them accountable. All right? As always, I love you all. Thank you so much for following me. You can follow me on Instagram. It's j.alex.deering. Of course, my page is Alex Deering. On Facebook, if you're watching there, you can follow me on YouTube. It's Talks with Alex. The show will be up, and you can see all the past shows. And I think, and Twitter, it's Deering_Alex. And please follow me, talk to me, let me know what you feel. If you have any ideas for the show, you can send me an email, j_8390@gmail.com. That's JAY_8390@gmail.com. As always, thank you so much for following. I will see you guys next week. We will have a great conversation again. All right. Talk to you soon. Bye.